Hey everyone, Lisa Resnick here, back from my little hiatus that I took, and I have the absolute honor to be sitting here with Lynette Ford, the president of Youngstown Foundation. Hello, Lynette.
Hello.
And while Lynette's not drinking, I will be drinking her share of Youngstown beer. So we have representation of noble creature, good for the goose, one of my favorites because it does taste like a little morning mimosa. And then we also have Penguin City, and who doesn't love Penguin City and their love for this city too. They're both actually great advocates as brewers for our city.
Oh, great.
Which is awesome. So I wanted to invite Lynette here today to talk about Youngstown Foundation. Because believe it or not, even though I grew up here, I did not realize that we had the foundations I had no clue.
Shame on you.
I know, it is a shame. It is. Like, I had no idea that we had these powerhouses to be able to help support and be pillars in our community that we could reach out to for guidance as well as monetary, everything to help achieve what we need to achieve in this city.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The Youngstown Foundation has been Youngstown's foundation since 1918.
I saw that.
We started in response to the pandemic of the time, which was the Spanish flu.
The irony, right?
Yes. And so here we are. I started technically in December of 2020, being recruited
during the pandemic.
During the pandemic, going through incredible interviews and all kinds of questions from community members and distribution committee members on how would I preserve the legacy of this foundation. And, I got a lot of flack for not growing up in Youngstown.
People here are very like Youngstown pride, very much
yeah.
so.
Youngstown pride, Youngstown grit. And I get it. I grew up in Cleveland. I feel like it's an extension. Youngstown is an extension of the good work that's going on everywhere. And really, if good things can happen in Youngstown, then they can happen everywhere. We've been the incubator for all great things across the country. And we've got Youngstown folks, alumni, and hardcore folks who live all over the world. And so taking that Youngstown flavor to other places.
I always said, because I moved away for a period of time, and I've always said that I think that we have the worst discourse when it comes to our area versus other people's perspective of our area.
Yes. Oh, I agree. It's, when I came here, I found all of these great institutions who have a long history with the foundation, having received funds for great work that they're doing. And I found myself going out being an ambassador, talking to folks who've lived in Youngstown for upwards of 70 years and introducing them to the Butler Museum, to these other great institutions that are here, nonprofit health and human service agencies that are providing hope and healing for our entire community. And people just didn't know about that.
They don't. I mean, really the outreach when it comes to everything that we do have accessible, we need to push that, and we need to make sure that we are conversing a lot more when we talk about the things that we have.
Oh, yeah.
100%. Now, I have to ask during the interview process. Because like you were commenting, and once I found out about the Youngstown Foundation, of course, I Googled, as we all do nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
And I did a little bit of research, which is amazing to me, the history and background that is involved with the foundation. So when they were putting you through the interview process, which I'm sure interview processes are never easy.
No.
And no matter how confident you are, there's always that little bit of like, oh my goodness, am I going to make it to the next round? But did they by chance, did they like drill you on the history of the foundation?
So,
because you're a preparatory person.
Yeah, I mean, so I wasn't exactly drilled on the history of the foundation, although I had studied it. I was asked more about legacy. And look, I was came in walking in the footsteps of an incredible executive director,
Yes.
Jan Stressfeld, who has given to this community in so many different ways.
Yes.
Grew up here, family, has done incredible things. So I knew that it was going to be hard. And so one of the ways that I prepped was having conversations with Jan, reaching out to the staff, talking to folks in town who had interactions with the foundation. So by the time I got to the interview process, as confident as I pretend to be, I was still nervous, scared. I'm sitting across the table from the president of Youngstown State University, Jim Tressel. I mean, I've
That
got
would be intimidating.
the regional president of PNC Bank, Ted Schmidt,
Yes.
sitting there. I've got the U.S. Attorney, David Tepfer, sitting across the table, and the wonderful Eugenia Atkinson, who has buildings named after her, community centers. And so to say that you're prepared for that, for the history, for the legacy, for the questions, it was really, all of that kind of flew out the window when
Yes.
I'm sitting across the table from these folks.
Now, was it like a panel in front of you and then?
Oh yeah. Like they were, so secrets. But they were in this room, and I remember like the third round of interviews, because I'd already been through two. The third round was actually on the campus of YSU.
Oh.
And I didn't know my way around campus, of course. And so I get there and I'm in the ladies' room, like trying to say, do my Supergirl kind of thing.
I was about to say, did you do your power pose?
I did my power pose, put my hands on my hips,
Right.
add a little extra lipstick. And a woman comes in and she says, I wonder what's going on here. I was like, why? Is there something going on? It's the middle of the pandemic. Students were not on campus. There were very few cars. And she says, well, I see that the golf cart is here. I'm like, yeah. Well, that means the president is in this building. I was like, the president of YSU?
Yes.
And she said, yeah, he's the only one who has that golf cart. So there must be something going on. I was like, I wonder what's going on. And when I go up into the interview, there he is sitting with a panel like of other dignitaries of Youngstown who care about this community, the Valley, and making sure that they get to choose the person who's going to be leading the foundation.
And they do. They all truly do care for the Valley. I mean, it is one of those things that all of us are coming at this area at very many different angles, but we see the value in each of us.
Yeah.
And you just got to be open and willing to listen to other people's idea, especially those that have such a rich history of knowing what we've gone through.
Oh yeah.
Like I wasn't here during the 70s, so I don't know the history that the generation of my parents growing up in this area. So their perspective is different than my perspective.
Right.
Which will be different than the perspective of our children. Now, granted, for my children, I'll be like, you don't even know.
Yeah, like what is steel? What is steel?
But like when I went to YSU, we had 2 bars. Now look what you guys have.
14.
So, I mean, it's just amazing to be in that room with those people.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you want to belong. It's like, pledging a sorority or fraternity.
Yes.
You want to be one of these folks. And so the love and the passion, I think, that you have to have for people, that you have to have for agencies that are doing the hard work. And that's the side that I came from. I came from hardworking nonprofit agencies who needed to, at the time, prove themselves worthy of receiving community dollars, of receiving foundation dollars.
And that's not easy.
Never easy. We're trying to make it easier, though. So the foundation has gone to an online application process so that it's accessible to more nonprofits, large and small. We've got traditional organizations. I can name their names. Some of them have national presence. Some of them have local presence. And then we're looking at, new startup 501c3 nonprofits that are doing good work in neighborhoods and communities across the region. So that's been very exciting.
Now, if I wanted to put dollars to the Youngstown Foundation, knowing that it was going to be properly vetted, disseminated
Yes.
to the right nonprofits.
Yes.
How would I be able to go about it? Because I always think about Obama's campaign.
Oh, okay.
And he was the breakthrough campaign candidate that literally through social media utilized that outlet to be able to help fund. And it was $1, whatever you could do per person to help fund his campaign.
Yeah, for sure.
To then give him leverage and strength going forward to get additional dollars.
Yeah. So the Youngstown Foundation started with 5 guys. They've got streets named after them, the Wicks and the Stambaugh and Butlers, these guys, and who all pitched in like $6,000 a piece. And at the time, more than 100 years ago, $6,000 was a lot of money.
Yes.
So the foundation started with a total donation of about $30,000. And over the years, it's grown as a wholly owned trust of PNC Bank. So we operate differently than some other community foundations and private foundations. We are a wholly owned trust where our investments are managed by PNC Bank. So let's say you want to have a fund at the Youngstown Foundation. It can be sort of steep to get in on the ground level. So it's not like giving $1 to campaign or funding.
I don't have to talk in front of the panel, do I?
No, you don't have to talk in front of the panel. Okay, but you do have to match, charitable purposes and have an interest in supporting this community. Our entry level donation is well above $100 and well above $1,000 and well above $10,000 to get started now. But we're willing to talk to individuals and families because nobody makes a decision on their own for this long-term investment. The Youngstown Foundation was started with the idea that it would be giving for long-term change, that should a pandemic come again, which it did, and from 1918 to it's come again, that we would be ready, that we would be continuing to prepare and provide protection for this community. And so the willingness to give long-term dollars are the folks who and organizations that typically invest their dollars at the Youngstown Foundation.
That's good, because then you do. There's a way to be able to develop that trust and bond and reliance on one another when you have it at that number.
Oh, absolutely.
So then it's not just a whimsical hey, let me do this and then never mind. I mean, they're vested just as much as the foundation is vested.
Oh, absolutely. Most donors who participate at the Youngstown Foundation, they are thinking generations beyond them. They are putting us in their wills. They are talking with their kids and saying, look, when I die, here's what's going to happen for you, but here's what I'm planning to do for our community and generations to come. And those kinds of philanthropically minded folks who have a heart and soul for this community are the kinds of partners where the Youngstown Foundation has cultivated them and really grown as a result of their trust in the trust.
That was good.
Thanks. I try to come up with at least one a day. So
that's always good to do that.
Yeah.
I do it too sometimes on a whim. Or I'll just play Dr. Seuss every once in a while and rhyme.
That's even better. That's even better.
But so how, if you were a nonprofit looking to receive funds, for instance, I'm on the board for Oh Wow, or I definitely love Animal Charity. Project MKC.
Wow.
I mean, we have so many different phenomenal nonprofits in which United Way, which I firmly believe that if we can support them in any way whatsoever, all that we have, because everyone is such a staple in our community.
Yeah.
I think the best example or best metaphor that was ever mentioned to me was about the tent, and how some people were complaining about chalk drawings or street festivals or things of those nature not resolving and ignoring the problems of crime or hatred and all those other issues that every community faces.
Yeah.
And the author of this book that I read said, and I had a phenomenal opportunity to meet with her, but she said, our communities are like tents. Everybody has to pitch up their side. Otherwise, the tent will never stay up. So in order for you to create a good habitat, everybody has to have their portion. So yes, there are those that focus on trying to resolve the issues of hatred and crime, but that does not mean not to have the chalk drawings or the street fest, because they are just important as well. And then you do also have those in our area that help out with the food deprivation that we have, as well as the animal cruelty or children that need additional items. Like we, at the Beatitude, we have so many different phenomenal organizations. Of course, plug in a well again, but and STEM, but we have so many different phenomenal support systems here, and they, of course, probably go to you as well as Ween, as well as the Community Foundation.
Yeah, for sure.
So you guys all work together to help all of us.
Yeah, you can never do too much.
No.
Right? The work that leaders at nonprofit organizations do, the skills, the generosity and special talents that they have to manage whatever area it is, whether it's arts, food pantry work, simply laying hands on someone, behavioral health organizations, healthcare institutions, you name it, to move the community forward. It takes all of us working together, sometimes working alone, doing our own thing. And the foundation looks at all of that. We applaud all of that work.
Yes.
And we know that it's needed. We wish we had more money to give and more money to help.
Another reference of Bezos. We all wish we had Bezos money.
We all wish we had Bezos money. But when you're talking about the root causes of poverty, the root causes of racism, the root causes of what ails any community, those are really, you can't have enough money to give to those, to erode those.
Yes.
But we can make some dents and we can have successes. We can measure them. And as a community, we can stick out our chest from time to time and lift up the great accomplishments that we've had. And that's what I like to be a part of. And frankly, the foundation would like to say we've got more than 100 years of track record of success in helping people pull through.
That's a very true statement.
So, I mean, those things are really, really, they can tear at your heart and be heart-wrenching events when violent strikes, and particularly in our community with 53 deaths by gunshot, and this violence is heartbreaking. And you feel like, well, did this happen all of a sudden? Or COVID-related deaths? Did this happen all of a sudden? Or things that just exist? I mean, I'm a teeny bit worried about kids having been out of school for the long period of time, and the great talent and skills that classroom teachers have.
And they do.
Right. And I know that as a parent, I can't do the magic that as a trained teacher can do.
I apologize to all the teachers before my kids returned to school, because they were probably a little less smart because I was trying to help them.
Join the club, right? But also look at the skills that families gained during this period. Not just families, but but businesses and nonprofit organizations. Who even knew really what Zoom and this Microsoft Teams? We didn't know any of that. And our kids really didn't know that either.
No.
And so moving to a world that is more remote, that is more connected virtually than ever before, that we have to learn in that way, we have to communicate in that way. That's new for all of us, multiple generations.
Yes.
And so the ability to see forward, I wish the foundation had a crystal ball when I started, because then we'd be, moving forward and making the types of grants that looked to the future. We still try to do that. We still are trying to work with other organizations in the community that are doing strategic thinking, that are doing forecasting. We're looking at the regional chamber. We're looking at the port authorities and city governments. And now with the new ARP money that's come to our community, to transform it in ways that we couldn't have imagined before, because we never had this much of a financial government dollar dump in our community.
No, we haven't.
So the opportunities that creates. And for us at the foundation, because we don't have big government money, but to find our niche there and really leverage the funds that are coming to help the community.
That's right.
It's kind of, we want to be in the middle of that.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, right. This is such a pivotal time. I hope everybody does realize what a pivotal time this is and how we can accelerate and push on the gas a little bit faster, smart, but a little bit faster now that we have that ability and that dump of that money.
For sure.
And I'm appreciative that I'm not the decision maker when it comes to that.
I mean, this is once in a lifetime, right?
This
is once in a lifetime transformational dollars. We should be able to soar in ways that we couldn't before, and maybe fix some stuff that's needed fixing for a long time.
I know. That would be great. I always say this. I was like, I'm a list person.
Yeah.
So all I think of is like, if we could just have a laundry list of all the things that need to be fixed. So then we can start crossing off. I'm not saying we're going to accomplish all of it, but over time, we'll start checking off those items on the list. But we need to have the list.
Yeah.
We need to have that list so we know the details. And I don't know if my mindset's oriented that way because of real estate. And maybe that's why, like, I want the details of everything jotted down so I know what to look forward to and what's the best advice I can give.
And when the transaction is completed.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. But I'm very much into that. And I wish we had that.
Yeah. Sort of here is what we need to have fixed in the community. And here's what's going to be provided, right? And that whole list that we could all maybe at some point even vote on, right? To have, we're going to have Market Street done, or we're going to have school extended 24 hours a day. Oh, my goodness.
I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, I think we need to be like Georgia and you go to school all year round.
Year round school.
You could have breaks in between.
Yeah.
They don't agree with me, but I do think it would be good for them.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be good for me, too.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That has to be important. Yeah. I think I love the idea of list and lists that are public.
Yes.
Right. So that we all know what's on the list and maybe how much it's going to cost.
Yes, definitely. There's always a cost to everything.
There's always a cost. Yeah.
But to me, it's always, is there a value to it? And a lot of times there is.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, because we have not discussed a little bit more of your background of how you got into the nonprofit world to begin with.
Yeah.
I mean, like when we're little kids, we have these dreams of firemen. Actually, I don't think I ever did have one. I wanted to be a judge, and then I found out I had to be an attorney before, and I opted out. But I just couldn't picture myself prosecuting someone who was innocent or defending someone who I felt was guilty.
Oh, man.
Now I know there's a lot more areas of law that you can get into, but I didn't know that as a little kid.
Oh, that's cool. Well, since you mentioned judge, I just want to send out a special shout out to my dear friend, Judge Pinky Carr in Cleveland Municipal Court.
There you
Today
go.
is her birthday, and just happy birthday, Pinkney.
That's awesome.
But yeah,
see, that was well played,
well,
right?
yeah, like who even knew you ever wanted to be a judge? But just from our first meeting, I would vote for you. I mean,
thank you.
there you were sitting at the Lunch and Learn at the chamber.
Oh my gosh. I was so
asking questions, causing a ruckus, but also being, just you and letting us all know that you were there. So I think that's really important when you've got big events like that, that you will stand up and let people know that not only you came, you saw, you conquered, and went out a little bit early. So no, that was
the loudest way possible.
That was really, really fantastic. I really love that. And so, when you asked me to come on the podcast, I was like, sure, the girl who creates a stir wherever she goes, I want to be in the middle of that. But yeah, like a lot of folks growing, I didn't grow up in a wealthy household. I had lots of extended family all around me all my life. I had aunts and uncles and cousins and grandmothers and, living in the house with my two brothers and parents.
Yes.
And so going to school, I get to Northwestern University my freshman year.
Oh, nice.
And run smack into a guy who changes my life, I thought, for just a minute, but now it's, a gazillion years later, and I'm married to my best friend that I met my freshman year at college. And so he was all like engineering and science, and I was all like music and creative writing. And so like we were total worlds apart, and he was like this smart, straight A person, and I was not. And so, we got together, and I started thinking about, well, once Cinderella meets Prince Charming, like literally what happens after that?
Yes.
What is written when you've got all these interests? And so I end up graduating with a degree in chemistry just because of running into him, which was so far from who I was.
Crazy.
Just imagine, it was so crazy. And so I sort of blended this love of music and writing with this science stuff, and I started doing these raps to the periodic table, because when you grow up in the hip hop era, you gotta you gotta make raps and rhymes to everything. Right. And so I was working for a company, Union Carbide Corporation, and they required that the employees volunteer what was a couple hours every month. Okay. And I started volunteering with an organization. And the next thing I know, they said, hey, would you help us write a grant? I was like, I don't know what a grant is, but sure, I'll help do that. And then the next thing you know, they said, well, since you helped write the grant, why don't you work for us? And I was like, sure, I guess so. So that's really how it got started. I went from a corporate research chemist environment to being in a nonprofit environment as sort of a program manager. And from there, from grant writing, just started doing fundraising. So by the time I got to graduate school, I knew I didn't know anything really about doing budgets or financial statements or any of that. And so that was really the reason I went to graduate school, to be able to add that to my suitcase of competencies.
And that is, from what I've heard, because I have not gone to graduate school, but I heard that's the most difficult part. Even those that are very mathematically oriented, or have been in the world of business for quite some time, even at the level of already creating budgets. When they go back to grad school, they say the most difficult courses are the finance course.
Well, yeah, I would say for me, again, sort of this music geek, the thing that was hard for me was all of it. So by getting to the University of Michigan, go Blue, And but getting
now
there,
nobody's gonna watch.
they better.
Everybody is now stop watching.
Yes, it's turned off, or it's rewound, or they're just going to delete that part and then skip to the next. So yes, I think that graduate education, undergraduate education, or having just financial geniuses around you in the room, which
Yes.
I have the incredible privilege of having at the Youngstown Foundation, the folks at the PNC investment team, that whole crew, the client management services, they know how to manage our money. When I started on December 1st, 2020, on the worst snowstorm day for our first distribution committee meeting, and had to drive from Cleveland to Youngstown to be here face to face, our assets on that day were $133 million, which is pretty good for a foundation in the state of Ohio.
Yes.
Would put us like in the top 15 asset size. As of our meeting on September 14th, 2021, so what, 9 months later? See, it's math. Or 10 months later.
It's time frame.
10 months later, right? 10 months later, we were at 149 million. 16 million. Can you imagine?
Holy cow.
Just growing $16 million in less than a year?
That's amazing.
These folks are geniuses. They are geniuses. And they also care about our community, because the more money the more that we can grow our assets, the more we can give away.
Yes.
The more good work we can do. So I believe in graduate education. I believe that good people who have a great interest in finance and accounting and corporate strategy, send them to the University of Michigan for graduate school, and they will learn great things.
There you go. A nice 2 plugs.
Yes. There you go.
For the big blue.
Yes.
Are we allowed to say Michigan? I don't think Youngstown Studios allows for Michigan to be mentioned.
There you go.
That's awesome. Well, I am so happy that you were able to come. And actually, since you've been here, I do have this question for you. Have you had an opportunity to eat a lot out here since then?
I don't think.
Because it's the pandemic too, so it's been difficult.
But I don't think that there is a restaurant on Federal or anywhere downtown that I haven't sat in one of their chairs. I'm also, frankly, blaming Youngstown for the gazillion pounds of weight that I've gained from pizza and calzones and bakery and salads that are loaded with all kinds of great meats and all of that. It's more like a meat and French fry deal than it is vegetables.
The Youngstown salad is the best salad.
It's the best salad.
Fries, ranch, cheese. That is the best salad.
So thank you, Youngstown.
That's called balance, right?
That's called balance. Yes. And fried, like just grease on top of it, and then the dressing, and then of course I have to follow up everything with like a Mocha House cheesecake.
I love Mocha House cheesecake too.
Yeah.
And they're so pretty.
They're gorgeous. So when you're eating them, you're sort of crying like you're devouring art.
I know. It's so good. Well, thank you again. I really appreciate you coming on. And for everyone out there that is looking to apply or want more information regarding Youngstown Foundation, how can they find you?
So they can always call the office. We always take calls. But a good place to start too is on our website, theyoungstownfoundation.com.
There you go. All right. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Homes and Hops is proudly supported by Platt Insurance, your local independent insurance agency offering auto, home, life, business, and farm insurance. They also have a team of specialists that help you with insuring your brewery or winery. Platt Insurance, helping you protect your tomorrow. For more information or a quote, please call them at 330-856-6244 or visit them on the web at platteinsurance.com.